Welcome, everybody. I'm Toby Eunice of A Gypsy's Kiss.
And I'm Shelley Carney, and welcome to A Gypsy's Kiss, the vlog.
K-Pro Cow Pow Wow. K-Pro Cow Pow Wow Wow. It's the K-Pro Cow Pow Wow Wow. They want to find the treasure, they want to find it now. They are K-Pro and they are cow. They're going over it and over it and over it again. This treasure hunt created by Forrest Fenn. Sing it!
All right, everybody. We are K-Pro and Cow. This is the powwow. Monday night. We're just having a little fun because, of course, Toby and Shelley are taking a hiatus off this week.
And if you go to like the announcements on YouTube, you can see all the places they've been. They like posted today where they are, and they're meeting up with search friends, and we miss them. And so I like dressed up like Shelley today, and because we miss them. Where are they? Come back. We need you. We need you at Gypsy's Kiss. Yeah.
I should have got the shirt and tie.
Should
So whatever Toby and Shelley are doing, we wish them well, and they will be back next week.
They're picking up the treasure chest. They're picking up the treasure.
Yeah, right. All right. So we got a fun, action-packed show tonight. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world. Sassy says, dude, you're not in Vegas. I'm boots on the ground, in my mind, anyway. Still working on this whole green screen thing. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. So, actually, the problem is it's not a green screen. That's why it looks like the way it does. It's something you can do through Zoom. The green screen I got is not actually wide enough. What's that?
You know what? I just realized technologically, let's talk about that because I actually might have a workaround. Okay. Which is hilarious.
Oh, right now, you mean to talk about it? Oh, okay.
No, later.
All right. So, I titled the video, The Hint About Where Warm Waters Halt, that you need to hear. And I believe you do need to hear it. I believe it's important. But what we're going to talk about is Cynthia Meacham's book. For those of you everybody should know who Cynthia is, but if you don't, she's a longtime searcher. I'd say she's one of the original people, along with Dale and maybe a couple others. And she wrote a book about her travels and her searches. K-Pro has the book. I do not. We will show the link on if you want to buy the book. But there's a couple things that are very interesting in that book that we're going to go over. And one of them is the comments about where warm waters halt. So go ahead and tell them about the book.
Let me tee it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another book out. This PhD put a book out that some don't think are as respectful to the chase because it says some things. I don't know. I don't have it. I would not spend the money on it. So that got me thinking, what books are out there that would be good other than TTOTC, etc. And then I was watching the flip side, maybe a week and a half ago. Somebody actually sent it to me when the Encore was on, and I popped in, and Cynthia and Dale were on there, and they were talking about when Forrest hired a lawyer, which was in 2013, which is crazy. So I'll talk about that in a minute or later. But and Sean actually said, because there hadn't been anything confirmed, and Sean actually said, well, Dale and Cynthia, you are both reputable searchers. We trust you if you have said it, which I thought it really got me thinking, let me look back at Cynthia's book. And then I called Cynthia and I was like, when your book came out, was there anything that kind of did the dun, dun, dun in your book that kind of turned the community upside down? And there was some things that she quoted directly from Forrest that were said, and she stands by everything in this book. If you don't know Cynthia, Cynthia will document everything that she kind of has as experiences. So like if you met her at the Blue Corn, afterwards, she will probably document the conversations of just in general what she's had, and she has with Forrest as well. And so she has those notes, and I'm sorry, I have a cat that really likes me right now. And so that is where it got me thinking, let's look back. This is kind of like a snapshot back. And so let's look at the snapshot back because there's some things that really coincide to this last year. And that's why sometimes some of the vets go, oh, this isn't new. But then there's some things that I think are relatively new. So if you don't have, oh, my
Uh-oh.
green.
I disappeared. It's a
Okay.
magic trick, everybody.
I'm so
Now,
turning off my green screen because I actually want people to see this.
yeah,
But go
maybe I
ahead.
should turn mine off too. So somebody said, now, hasn't that book been out a while? How long has the book been out?
I want to say it was 2016. Mine, mine is signed by Forrest, so I'm not going to show my signature page. Both Forrest and Cynthia. It's
Why aren't you going to show the signature page?
because it's funny.
It's got that hint on there? Oh.
Ah, super. Yeah, totally. Because that worked out really well for me last time. Let's see. And the one thing that
It's
Cynthia,
been out about 3 years, hasn't it? The book?
it doesn't
or
have
more?
a date.
It doesn't have a publication date?
No, it does not.
Oh, well, let me look. See if I can find it. So I'm going to show you guys the website real quick. The link is in the description below if you want to order the book. And make sure you order it off of this website, not like Amazon, because Cynthia said she doesn't get any money if it's off of Amazon. So I'm not sure why that is, but this is the actual website. It's store.bookbaby.com/book/Chasing Fenn's Treasure. And if you go to Cynthia's blog, chasingfennstreasure.com, there's a link there on how you can buy it. Yeah, it does not have a year. Look at that. Okay.
Yep.
Well, then maybe Cynthia can tell us.
A couple of things is one, she does not, she just kind of states it as such. She's chasing Fenn's treasure, one woman's insight into the Forrest Fenn and his poem. She doesn't say, like, this is what you should do. I like her book because it's not patronizing. So I'm going to go through the couple of things that were ahas for me, but then I also want to go over some additional things that might supplement the discussion.
Right. So should we talk about Where Warm Waters Halt? Because that's the one I kind of teased for the title. Should we talk about that one first?
Well, so Mike doesn't have the book. So as we were
Right.
chit-chatting last night, because, everybody brings home like work talk, we started talking about this. And he's like, oh, that one's not in there. Oh, are you sure we're going to have a... Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. We need to talk about this. Okay.
So I actually think there's a couple that are more important or not, or as important, but Mike wants to focus on, okay, so we're going to skip over the bathroom, the skylight, the flask. They're all scrapbooks about that. We're going to keep going. The 200 footer she talks about way back then. Let's keep going.
And William asked, are we going to talk about some of the quotes that are in the book? Yeah, I think so. Right? Or no? Or is that an inside message?
What did he say?
Are we going to talk about some of the quotes that are in the book? I don't know what quotes are in the book. I don't have the book.
And Evan, yes, mine is Nez Persolve, and mine, I don't have the exact quotes. I just hear them on audio later.
Nice.
Okay. So there is also one about the treasure not being associated with any structure and her opinion about what that means. She believes it means no structure for any of the 9 clues, and there's reasons why. And she has quotes from both reporters and Forrest on that. I want to go back to that one.
We'll go over that. That's pretty huge too. That could blow a lot of people's home of Brown that are using a log cabin or ruins or whatever it is. So, all right. So what's the warm waters part?
Okay. Hold on. I have to get to it because I wasn't going to do it this way. You've moved it on.
Sorry.
And well, there's a couple.
It happens.
Do not ignore any of my nouns. Okay. It was written like an architect. Hold on.
While you're doing that, I'll play around with my background. Hey, there we go. Okay. Any of those look familiar to anybody? That was from the World Series of Fenn, actually. It's a pretty cool picture. So, okay, sorry.
Okay. Oh, that's about it being buried. I don't think it's buried based on that comment.
Or do you just want to go in order? Do you just want to talk about them in order since that's how you already have them set up?
I just like you so much right now.
However you want to do it, K-Bro, since you have the book.
Let's do it in order just because...
Baba Ganoush is in the house. There's a name we haven't seen before.
Baba Ganoush. Okay, let's go in order just because that's easier for me, and we will jump back and forth. So, so one of the things that I think some people believe is the whole skylight.
In the shower, the skylight?
In the shower, and that it was a dysfunction or an anomaly, an aberration. Mm-hmm. Cynthia is one that's actually been back there. She said He showed me his entire home. She's actually toured his entire home, including the bathroom.
Okay.
And these are little ones, but it's going to build up to bigger ones later. She was so nervous the first few times she met Forrest. She said, I took a flask of Bailey's to chug the third visit to calm my nerves. He did talk about a flask in that at that same time when she put this out. It does talk about that.
Do you know the first year that she visited Forrest's house? Because she's been in this since the beginning, right?
No,
Well, I mean, 2012, 2013, maybe, right?
She first met Forrest in October of 2013, and she actually talked about it in her book about how she met him.
Well, 2013 is going back quite a ways. Okay, all right.
Yeah. There weren't many people who were within 200 feet. That was the lure post screening. So the 200-footer, some people have asked, when did that start? That is where it actually began. But let's get to where warm waters halt. So here's one that I think is important. Here is a quote. I met Forrest at Collective Works Bookstore in Santa Fe. Once again, I enthusiastically relayed this search story because she talks about, if you're a New Mexico searcher, oh my gosh, you need to get this book because she goes into great detail about many different areas. There's another searcher that I heard when they met. It was like, oh, I'm in this area. And she's like, have you read my book? I actually talk about that for chapters. Anyway, I enthusiastically relayed the story. For him, when I discussed the CCC cabin as being the home of Brown, he immediately said, don't you remember? I said it can't be associated with any structure. Does that mean none of the clues can be associated with a structure? Later, I talked to a local woman who used an Indian ruin as her home of Brown. She confirmed that he reminded her of this statement, quote, the hidden treasure is not associated with any structure, period. In my opinion, he is now saying none of the 9 clues are associated with any structure. Because why would he remind her, both of them of that if they were talking about their home of Brown and he reminds them of that quote? So now there is a jump there, but that's her logic.
They were talking about home of Brown. I want to make sure I understand, and I heard you right.
2 different situations.
Right.
2 different, yes.
And both times Forrest said the treasure chest is not associated with a structure.
Well, the first one was, quote, don't you remember I said it can't be associated with any structure. Then later with the reporter, quote, the hidden treasure is not associated with any structure, unquote.
That, if I was there, if I was a fly in the wall or whatever, I'm just hearing it now, but that makes me think the last 6 or 7 clues from home of Brown down are like together in a concentrated area. In other words, if the treasure chest isn't associated with a structure, neither is the home of Brown, because all those clues are like right there, kind of close.
I think it's
somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Either way, it fits. That's not a structure. So that's interesting. Okay.
So then the next one, he goes back to my earlier visits in 2014. He sternly told me I had to learn and read the poem. I had to read every word. Then he asked me, what was the difference between the, T-H-E, and the word A? And those are both in quotes. I sat there
the word A.
The word A?
Like the letter A. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
And the word
sure. Okay.
The.
Okay.
The difference. He asked her this.
Okay.
I sat there like a scared student, afraid to answer because I didn't know the answer. He explained, quote, the word A is plural and the word the is singular.
The house means one, so that's singular. A house is plural. A.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Okay, I'm trying to think that one through.
I don't, not in the dictionary I see, but that in all that matters is this is Forrest's poem and Forrest's definitions. I didn't know the word A means plural.
Well, if I say a house, which one is it? It could be many houses because you don't know which one. I wonder if he meant it that way by plural. If I say the house, that means one house.
Oh.
That one, the house. A house means any of the houses. I wonder if that's how he meant it. Now, is there an A and a the in the poem that he related that to? I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
Okay. So here, so there's
the canyon down. Okay, in the canyon down. I'm just wondering if that's what he meant. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you guys need to highlight me because I'm going to keep going unless I see something and I'll break away.
Okay.
Upon arriving home that day, I tried to, quote, read the poem and get a better understanding of the lessons I just received. Okay, I understood. The home of Brown is an actual place, or at least the location of an actual place, which at one time may have had a structure residing there, just like the place called Betty's Cabin in the Pecos Mountains just north of Santa Fe. There's no longer a structure there, but that spot is still marked on the map, Betty's Cabin, and all of us who hike across Hamilton Mesa in pursuit of our dreams will understand the location of this cabin. So that is her surmising. This is not an exact quote from her. So she has taken that leap to say she now believes none of the locations are associated with a man-made structure.
And it's interesting because a lot of the people are saying, yeah, that they always thought that. In other words, like logically, that it makes sense that the 9 clues are not associated with man-made structures. Where was it? Zapster says, no clues are associated with a structure. Clues are contiguous, therefore associated with each other and the treasure. There was a question. Oh, somebody says you cut out when you were talking about the skylight. When Cynthia went in his bathroom, she saw the actual skylight in his
so let me
shower.
go back.
Okay.
Let me go back because we got some work to do tonight.
And he did have the skylight. That's what she's asking. There was a skylight there. He didn't make that up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yes, I know details for. Ask her about it, or when she's on any show, ask her about that.
Well, she needs to come on now that we've done this. People are going to want to ask her questions. But I think she's boots on the ground, isn't she? Or she's out somewhere anyway. I don't know.
And I asked her if it was okay to say she may pop in here. She's not going to get good enough reception right now.
Okay.
To be able to actually come on, but she will try to pop in to chat tonight. But she is boots on the ground.
Crimson Coat says, what if the structure was woman-made? Get it? That's not a man-made structure. Nice. I think embellishing just a little, question mark.
Actually, that's so Fenn speak. Crimson Coat might be Forrest Fenn. I could totally see that.
And I just want to remind everybody to thumbs the video up and super chats on if you want to do that to donate to the cause. But how about the warm waters part? Are we getting to that?
I am going.
All right, go ahead. It's coming, everybody. The warm waters part's coming.
Each time I relayed my stories to Forrest, he listened intently, and then he usually gave me some sage advice. When I explained I used Manby Hot Springs as my warm waters halt, but then drove around the side trail to start my search. He exclaimed, then I would have said, not far, but too far to swim, exclamation point.
That's what he said? Too far to swim?
Yeah, so she's saying that she went around the bend. Well,
Right.
He would have said, then you would swim that far. He said, not far, but too far to walk. So it's a place that you're going to be walking. Okay.
Not driving? Is that what you just inferred there?
No, but if you're driving, you can walk.
Oh, I see. Yeah. In other words, where
can't be
warm waters halt, you're not going through the water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. But do you dip your toe in it? But go ahead. We'll get to that point.
Michael. Okay. Another time when I mentioned Alamo Bog, which is steaming hot, he exclaimed, but can you get in that water?
Say it again.
Another time when I mentioned Alamo Bog, which is steaming hot, he exclaimed, but can you get in that water?
So in other words, you can't because it was too hot, right?
Yes. So WWWH, tip your toe in it. Is it too hot? Is it too cold?
So this is my point. And everybody can disagree, but this is my point. When I heard the couple of the things that you said, like when she said this hot spring, which is scalding hot, is my warm waters halt, and Forrest says, but can you get in it? And he says to K-Pro, can you dip your toe in it? And he says to Scott Conway, can you dip your toe in it? 3 different searchers, 3 different times. Talking about warm waters, he has he's come right out and said, but is it warm? Did you touch the water? So in my opinion, because he said it 3 different times, warm waters is physical warm waters. It's not Glacier National Park by virtue of the name. It's not Agua Fria because the name of the city is Agua Fria.
It's not Walla Walla Wildlife Habitat, which was WWWH.
Well, that makes no sense.
Oh, I don't.
Just kidding you a hard time. But to me, vlog number 2, my whole point of vlog number 2 was it was not a hot spring. It's not warm waters. It's something else totally. No, it is. When Forrest says simplify, when he says get back in the box, he's saying the poem is literal. Begin it where warm waters halt. That's the hardest clue. The water, it's physical water that's warm. Touch it. If it's too hot, That's not it. If it's cold, that's not it. Now, you could say warm is subjective. What's warm to you may not be warm to me. You could try, I guess you could make that argument, but I think warm is generally warm to everybody. You know what I mean? If it's cold, that's not the warm water's halt.
Are you ready for this one? This one.
This is another one related? Oh, okay. All right.
The one last night. Okay. No. So her and her partner had drove home and they were discussing basically their solve. And they were with a reporter. And the reporter then, there was actually a script by the reporter. Zapster, I will answer that in just a second. So basically the reporter and Fenn there's quotes, there's a transcript here.
Okay.
Cynthia used that. So basically, she says to Forrest, Cynthia took us out yesterday. And he says, okay, so here's her quote. Cynthia used that yesterday. She was asking me, let's try to find the blaze. And here's what I think the blaze is. And she looked around and we looked around. I didn't find anything that seemed out of place or different that struck me as being a blaze. Fenn, quote, I'm going to have to talk to Cynthia because if you have clues to a solution, why would you start in the middle instead of the first? The reporter, quote, well, she took us through the whole process. She took us to look where warm waters halt and then where she thinks the first clue is. Forrest, where was it? The reporter, it was the confluence of the Medio at Frijoles rivers or creeks in the Santa Cruz River. There was a bridge right there where she thinks warm waters halt because there's shallow rivers there. Quote, Forrest, did you ask her to show you the warm water? Quote, the reporter, no, I didn't touch the water. Fenn, see there? She wanted to find the blaze, so she manufactured a place where warm waters halt. There's no warm waters under that bridge, I promise you.
So Forrest said there's no warm waters under that bridge, I promise you, meaning he's been there. And I guess that means the water's cold, right? So what we're trying to get at, which I think is huge, which I think is a bombshell in my opinion, it's physical warm waters. If your warm waters halt does not have warm water to the touch, it's wrong. I was been wrong when I did vlog number 2.
Well, here's the rest of the quote, but she backed it in. You see how that works? I could take you out to my yard and show you 50 blazes, but it's not going to help you find the treasure because you don't know where warm waters halt. You can't back it in. It doesn't work like that. And then they talk starting place. And then that's when he says, find where warm waters halt and let that take you to the puzzle because I can show you a million blazes.
Let that take you to the puzzle. Is that what he said?
That's the quote.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, to me, the big takeaway is it's water, one. It's not the name of a city. It's not Glacier National Park. It's not anything like that. There's certain roads that people think warm water halt is the road because of the name. You know what I mean? There's all these different theories, and all those are wrong. It is physical water, people. I think we can establish that much, in my opinion. I'll say in my opinion, because some people don't. I know some people aren't going to agree with me. But not only is it physical water, you've got to touch it. The only way if you know if it's warm is if you touch it, physically touch it, and say, oh, yeah, that's warm to me. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's warm waters.
I'm going to go way back. So Zapster asked, didn't he talk to you something about this? So now let's fast forward, because if you don't have this book and you haven't gotten that, let's fast forward. I didn't put it out. Someone else did, about where warm waters halt, tipping your toe in it. So Forrest asked me when I met him, where are you searching again? Because we rarely talked about searching. And I said, Nez Perce Trail. And he said, what is your WWWH? And the first battle is at a place that used to have an acronym that is WWWH. In the end is wildlife habitat. It's WWWH. And he said, where's your water? And I said, now I'm not exactly quoting because I don't have audios and I didn't record it the day after. So I don't have it all, but I'll just tell you in general. And he was like, where's your warm waters halt? And I'm like, there's no waters there. It's WWWH. It's an acronym. And he said, so can you tip your toe in it? And I was like, no, there's no waters. And he's like, where warm waters halt? Water.
Forrest has got to be beating his head with a rock. Like it says in the poem, where warm waters halt, people. Look for warm waters. And here we are 9 years later, and there's still people arguing with that. I think it's kind of funny. I was there for many years, you know. So let me put it this way, speaking of Toby and Shelley. The New Mexico fishing regulation, those designated waters is warm, Has nothing to do with touch. Those are warm waters because of what fish are in them. Do I get that right? Those waters that are designated as warm by the New Mexico fishing regulations are not warm to the touch. They're warm water species are in them or whatever. So that's wrong. So Toby, Shelley, I hate to say it, but we just proved that it's wrong. But I think they know it's wrong. Huh?
They do know that. Stop picking on them.
But for everybody, myself included, your WWWH, you thought it was an acronym. It's real water. You have to touch it to see if it's warm. Now,
well, and the big thing here, it can't be too hot either.
Right, because that's not warm. It's hot. Right. And then what does Forrest say about what is warm? To him, warm is comfortable. In one of the books, he said that, right? And we're going to get to it when we start cracking open. Thank you, Zapster. When we crack open the Thrill of the Chase, which we're going to over the next couple of weeks, yeah, he said warm to him means comfortable. So read the poem like begin it where comfortable waters halt. Now, I know you're going to... Okay, so Evan Penn had a very good point. If all what we've said is true, it's physical water, you have to touch it, it's warm. What makes water warm other than the sun? Because to me, if you're like, wow, this water's warm, usually water's cold in the Rocky Mountains. There's not too many warm waters unless it's naturally heated, unless it's like a geothermal source, right? Is there any way waters could physically be warm unless they're heated from underground somehow?
Okay, can I get a little crazy? Let's talk about Lydia Soul's bathtub, Olga's bathtub.
Right.
So, yeah, you can turn on your bathtub into hot water. So, yes, there are warm waters halt where there's a bathtub. And Suzanne Summers sat in a bathtub.
What do you mean? Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, somebody just said bathtub springs, I think in Colorado. They said, could it be bathtub springs?
That's still hot springs.
Well, no, but is it? But in other words, whatever it is, whatever hot spring you want to choose, is it warm?
No,
then,
I'm not.
What? Yeah, you lost me.
Is there something other than a hot spring that can make warm waters? Yes, a literal simplify a literal bathtub.
Yeah, but that doesn't make. Where's the bathtub in the Rocky Mountains? It doesn't make sense. It's not going to be somebody's house, is it? That we're looking for that has a bathtub.
Maybe.
No, I don't get it.
Open your mind, imagination.
Because, well, I think that's, like you said, that's kind of crazy. But what my question is, anywhere in our 4-state search area, is there waters that's warm other than some kind of geothermal feature like a hot spring? Not that I know of. I'm asking the question. And then Sassy says it halts, which means it ceases to be warm. And I agree with that. I've said in the past, where warm waters halt is where cold water starts, right? Or maybe it's boiling water, where boiling water starts because it's no longer warm. Now, now it becomes, if you agree with everything we've put forward so far, now it becomes how do you narrow it down? There's a whole bunch of hot springs, right?
Yes.
Didn't Forrest Fenn say there are 1,000 places where warm waters halt north of Santa Fe? Look at the big picture. So how do we pick which one? I think the Thrill of the Chase has got to give us the subtle hint to know which one, personally. But I just thought it was huge that it convinced me that it is a hot spring, and I'm going to say hot spring because I don't know of any other warm waters that are naturally warm other than a hot spring. Can you think of anything?
No. I brought
you
one
look
up.
like you want to say something else. What? Well, you said a bathtub, but what happened to the 9 clues not being associated with a man-made structure? Then it couldn't be a bathtub.
You didn't ask that. That is not ruled it out.
Well, it's not a bathtub. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Anything that's natural. I mean, I look at these as geographic landmarks. The 9 clues are 9 geographic waypoints or landmarks. The only way it's warm is if there's a hot spring.
If there's one,
don't argue with me. No, sorry. Point, counterpoint. Yeah, go ahead.
No, if you link 3 premises together and one of them is not valid, then it could throw out the other 2 unintentionally. So what I'm trying to stick with, without you going over to some butterfly little trail rabbit hole,
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Okay, I'm putting you back on track, baby. So what I'm telling you is, if we focus just on WWWH, could WWWH be warm water, something outside of a hot spring? And I think the answer is yes.
Okay, what? The bathtub deal?
The bathtub. There's an example.
Okay, so I guess that's a possibility. We have to entertain it as a possibility.
Okay, what about if it is a pool or a hot tub at a resort or a spa that he was in?
And then
Open
take
your
it in the canyon down. So I guess if there was a canyon street next to it, I guess that would work. So in other words, I'm trying to think how the next clue would fit. I mean, is that possible? Does it fall within the criteria? Maybe. It's warm water. What's our criteria? Where warm water's got to be physical water that you touch, and it's got to be warm to the touch. And then, once you figure that out, you got to figure out where it halts, which could be a whole other situation. But you're not ever going to figure out where it halts until we find the correct warm waters. So I haven't been watching the chat. It's been blazing by. I see what I did there? Blazing by. So Super Chat really is the way to get your question answered. I'm sorry, everybody, but we kind of been going back and forth here. And there's other quotes in the book we're going to get to that are not related to WWWH, but I think that's the big one. He said it to you. Did you dip your toe in it? He said to Cynthia, did you touch it? Right? I don't want to misquote. They basically told her, did you touch it? And
Yeah.
he said, was it Manby Springs? He said, I know that's not warm. It's cold. So to me, right?
Wait. Now, Blue Mango just said, sorry, Cowlazars makes more sense. I absolutely agree, but I don't want this group thing where it's just, wait,
I see what you're saying.
I said this before I
So
even knew
you're playing devil's advocate. I got you.
Yes,
Yeah,
because you're asking me to. I actually came up with the idea, and that's where everybody blew me up last year because I got some super secret hint. No, Cynthia did. Go blow her up.
Well, wait, you said Odious Soul. She did a video about a bathtub being where warm water's
Yes,
all?
all different bathtubs. It was interesting, not because I think she's right, because she
Yeah.
uses her imagination, and she did a ton of research. I think it was all the major bathtubs that are major features in Colorado, and she had like 10 or 15 of them. It was awesome. But here's the other one that I want to go back to WWWH. But can you get in that water? I think that is different than touching that water. Can you get in, to me, means you can get in and bathe in it. River bathing is best.
Right, and those could be the subtle hints where he's trying to tell us the correct where warm water's halt.
And I have two versions of river bathing is best. And we're going to do an upcoming show on why did he change certain words in those two.
That appeared in the book?
That appeared in the book versus up in Bozeman. He published it before the treasure hunt. Why did he change certain words and passages within that? And I have a side-by-side comparison. And I think some of you might find it interesting. But here's going back to, but can you get in that water? Can you get in that water? That doesn't mean just a toe. That doesn't mean a creek. That means you're getting in, you're bathing. That's a bigger body of water than some people have, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying Firehole, where he went, where he bathed, where he where he swam as a kid, right? Yeah. And then Davio says warm water is too ambiguous. What's warm to me might not be warm to you, blah, blah, blah. Right. But it seems to me with what he's telling people, that's what we're looking for. It's physically warm waters. Now the question is, how do we find out the correct one?
Hold on a second. Now Lisa Smith says, but would that clue last through time, i.e. a bathtub, unless it's a name of a place? I agree with
that's a good point. Yeah,
the bathtub as an example, because not everybody, I've already said a geothermal feature is what I believe. And I've actually looked up definitions of warm and hot, and those are actual different definitions. Those are from the geological standpoint, from an academic perspective of what is actually named. I've actually gone through every warm water or warm spring and hot spring because I actually thought they were springs. There's some indexes that are out there, but let's go back to this for a second. Can you get in that water? Mike, think about when us treasure hunting ladies got into Ojo Caliente. I was standing where it was cold. I moved about 6 inches. This is where Ojo Caliente hit. Was it the Madison? No, wherever it was. And I got a little bit closer and it was warm and I'm like, oh, this feels good. And yes, this is the one.
There it is. There's Ojo Caliente right there.
And I went over another 6 inches and it was scalding hot. I had to move back away. Right. So that is what and there is somewhere you can, I've actually bathed in that spot. Without you, I bathed in that spot.
What? Is that right?
Right?
It all comes out in the live show, doesn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we know there's all kinds of hot springs that are scalding hot, like Ojo Caliente. Where they dump into a cold river is where it turns warm, right? You were right there in that river, and you said, this is cold. Oh, I'm getting warmer. Oh, it's too hot over here, right? As you got closer.
Yes.
So when Forrest says, his name's Forrest, everybody, not Fenn. When Forrest says there are 1,000 places where warm waters halt north of Santa Fe, look at the big picture. What can that mean? Let's analyze that little tidbit because I think it's important.
Okay. Well, let's go. Illinois Ghost says, I'm at the other end of the poem. Is there a quote for cold? This goes to your vlog about, do we need to focus on warm as much as cold? I don't know. Okay,
Say
so
that again. So in other words, we're looking for cold because it's where it halts, where it's cold.
maybe there is a place that it's super, super, super hot. What is the cold quotes within here? And there is a ton of quotes, not only published quotes that you've got to focus on, and some of us have focused on and all of a sudden thought we had some, like, focus on the word that is key. I remember when myself and a couple tubers got that, we're like, ooh, we think this is the biggest thing. This was in our book. This was in the book from years ago.
Well, the thrill of the chase is what we got to look at. So when we go through the thrill of the chase, which is going to be here real quick, well, I'm looking for warm, any references to warm, and any references to cold. Because remember, his boss he called Frosty. All those could be the subtle hints. But if warm waters halt, Davio says if warm water halts, then cool water starts. Cool water, Roy Rogers, next contiguous part. I have no idea what that means. But it rhymed. I like it because it rhymed. But I did see your video today, Davio, and I liked it. Oh, he's saying key word has got something to do with it. There's the other thing. There's a word that is key. If there are 1,000 places where warm waters halt, maybe the word that is key that we're supposed to focus on would help us select the correct one. All right, we got a super chat from Rudy Green, Treasure Hunter. Thank you, Rudy. Forrest said, others were at the starting point. I think their arrival was an aberration. How would someone not realize, and then Rudy asked the question, how would someone not realize they were at where warm waters halt? If it's a tourist destination, there would be a whole bunch of people there that didn't realize they were at the correct warm waters.
He said people keep arriving there. He's actually used that quote.
I think their arrival. So to me, that's a destination you're traveling to.
Yeah.
You arrived. You didn't just walk by it because it's on a trail somewhere. That's kind of interesting. Their arrival was an aberration.
I have another one. Since it's a super chat, I want to give it a little bit more time. Others were at the starting point. I think their arrival was an aberration. How would someone not realize they were at WWWH? Not only it could be a destination, but what if, because the clues are linked together, if you get to your blaze but you didn't have the right WWWH, there's some sort of path you're supposed to take, and it's supposed to tell you that along the way, that it screws you up. Or here's another one. Think about that picture right behind you. Oh, wait, I need you to take over for a second.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Situation. I'll be right back.
That is interesting, Rudy Green. And when he says others, was he talking about searchers or was he talking about tourists? I think he was talking about searchers. I think he said a couple have solved the first two clues. I'm trying to think of the full quote, if somebody can find the full quote. Others were at the starting point. I think their arrival was an aberration. How would someone not realize they were at WWH? Because maybe there's a whole bunch of them. So they visited a whole bunch of hot springs, and they don't know which is the correct one. Yeah, and then the whole comment of there were 1,000 places where warm waters halt. And again, we're talking about physically to the touch warm waters. There's 1,000 places where warm waters halt. So if the hot spring is what feeds hot water, scalding water, and that water running into cold water is what makes it warm, where does all that halt? I guess is the question. When I see waters, plural, where do all the warm waters halt that are in our 4 states? And I guess that's the trick, is to figure out where that is. Wildcatter's daughter wants to know, where was that quote about arrival from? Let me look it up. I'll go to Terry Scant, or is it TariScant.com, and we'll look it up real quick. But I've often thought, if you have all these hot springs in Yellowstone, I like Montana, I like Wyoming, I like that whole area because of where you grew up. But all those hot springs dump into where? They dump into the Madison River.
Okay.
And then they all halt in the Madison. I mean, the Madison River is cold, I guess, at certain points. The scalding water goes into the river. It turns into warm water. And I guess the warm waters would halt where maybe the Madison ends. I don't know.
No, but okay. So I'm sorry. I had a moment there, but I want to go back. So see where I'm walking right there?
Yeah.
That happens to be one spot that's Ojo Caliente. My actual first search location was about a half a mile up off the beaten path. And it was very similar to Ojo Caliente, where it just had the trickling water. You could see the Mystic Falls and So where warm waters halt could have been there. It could have been 150 feet down the way, another 300 feet down the way. So going back to Rudy's question of how could someone not realize they're at WWWH? What if they thought it was Ojo Caliente, but it's actually 200 feet down at some unnamed spot? Like, do you think it actually has to be named?
Where warm waters halt?
Yes.
If it's not, how are we supposed to find it on a map? To me, it has to be named, because how do we know where to go, where it is?
It can be on a map without actually having a name, other than Forrest Fenn's favorite spot later.
So I guess the question is, how do we identify it? How does a little girl in India figure out the first 2 clues just from the poem and a map? If it's not like a... Because
it can be on a map without being named. Have you ever... Okay, it is if you have the right map. Have you ever gone to all the springs that are named in the Yellowstone Park?
No.
Or all identified? Some of them are just numbers.
Is there a map that just identifies the hot springs? Oh, okay. So I didn't know that.
And maybe it's linked to the benchmark maps that actually have a specific benchmark number to it, and it's somehow associated to that number through some weird cipher try the wheel crossword thing.
All right, this is the full quote because of the super chat that Rudy Green did. Somebody asked for the full quote.
Then we have William. Okay.
Here's the full quote. Searchers have routinely revealed where they think the treasure was hidden and walked me through the process that took them on that course. That's how I know a few have identified the first 2 clues. First 2 clues meaning we know where warm waters halt. You could say the canyon down is clue 2, or Too Far to Walk is clue 2, or Home of Brown is clue 2. Probably Canyon down. Right.
100, and I'll go into what Forrest told me on that one.
There are 2 people that have correctly identified, and he said a few. He said a few have identified the first 2 clues. Although others were at the starting point, I think their arrival was an aberration, and they were oblivious to its connection with the poem. So he's talking about tourists. There were other people that are just there. They were oblivious to, well, they could be searchers, but they didn't realize they were at where warm waters halt. And Rudy's question was, if you're a searcher, how do you not know you're at where warm waters halt? Because they didn't put it together. They didn't realize that's where they were. Can you imagine when this thing's over, you were like, I was right there. I was at the starting point 100 times. Never realized that was it.
That's a whole nother question. Would you want to be right there, or would you rather be like...
I want to be right there. I want to be 10 feet away and to know I was that close. And then there's another sentence to the quote. That's how I know a few have identified the first 2 clues. Although others were at the starting point, I think their arrival was an aberration, and they were oblivious to its connection with the poem. Playing a hunch is not worth much in the search, and those who start out by looking for the blaze are wasting their time.
Wait a minute. But you go back to that quote.
Yeah. What?
The aberration sentence.
Yeah. I think their arrival was an aberration, and they were oblivious to its connection with the poem.
Right, but he says we need to look for aberrations.
In The Thrill of the Chase, he says there are aberrations. You have to look up the word aberration and try and figure out how he meant it.
There's a rabbit hole. Hold on. Let me note. Aberration. Aberration. You keep that quote up, because I feel a rabbit hole coming on. Okay, William Super Chat. Okay, we're catching up. We're sorry. Forrest said you must down the first clue. Effort is a physical action, so when you move away, quote, from the hot spring, it turns cold. So effort worth the cold, in my opinion, is to move away or go quickly down, right?
That could be. Yeah, that could be. A lot of people think there's hints in The Thrill of the Chase or things that he talked about that are mirror images or mirrors themselves. And so, in other words, where warm waters halt would be where cold water begins. The whole question, though, is where is the right one? Where is that location?
Right, and there's
going to be narrow it down to the state. Where's the right state? Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you, William. So let's go to Jeremy. 2 hot springs, 2 waterfalls empties into a swimming hole that can flood into a canyon in heavy rain. Oh my God, that's like the trifecta of life right there. But didn't he say something like people are too fixated on waterfalls?
I'm not sure if that's an actual quote or not.
Okay.
So the hot spring is hot, but it goes to a waterfall. Now, would that be warm? But the heavy rain is going to make it cold. Oh, I see. So maybe he's saying that's where warm waters halt. Maybe. But is there only one that happens in?
Jeremy, can you give us an example of a location in the Rockies that would be the case? Wow. That's,
all right. So, Davio, I will say this. You're Roy Rogers and the Sons of the Pioneers. That's not real water. Forrest has said, can you touch it? Was it warm? So you're using like a wordplay of a song or people, Highway 212 is where warm waters halt because 212 degrees or whatever. That's wrong. I'm trying to say the big thing here, the big bombshell, is that I think, in my opinion, with things that Forrest has said, it's real water that is warm to the touch, and you've got to go there and you've got to touch it to have any chance of knowing if it's right.
No, I think the room has just solved this. KJ says WWWH is hell.
Is hell. Yeah.
It's hell.
All right.
Wow. Okay. And you know what, Jeremy, WWWH in the swimming hole. So if you read River, you know what? We've got to do River Bathing is Best for our next show and show the comparisons. And oh my gosh, this is coming together.
So Czar, Czar has got an interesting one. He says, I think there's 18 clues, 9 on the ground and 9 in the poem, all meaning the same thing. And that's true. He asked were the clues around when he was a kid, and he said most of the clues weren't, he said the clues were not around when I was a kid, but most of the locations the clues refer to were. Most.
Yeah.
Not all, but most. So yeah, where warm waters halt is a clue in the poem, but that's also a physical place. So that you could look at that as one clue, you could look at it as a separate clue.
Okay, and Quana's got that quote for me, thank you, that says, yes, F seemed exasperated with middle schoolers who are focusing on waterfalls when he answered their questions on mysterious writings. That was it. Thank you very much.
Mysterious writings? Yeah, okay. And then, where's the other one?
Okay, but now, Sassy is so, I like her because she thinks I will never play chess against Sassy because she will be so many moves ahead of me. Here's what she asked, and it's a phenomenal question. If warm waters halt, it will not be warm if you tip your toe in it once they come together, right?
But yes, that is true. But
dun, dun, dun!
But you have to know what's warm in order to find out where it halts. There's cold water everywhere in the 4 search states, right?
Yes.
But Buzz Smith, if I had cookies to give you, we need to come up with a coin so we can give people coins instead of cookies. Cookies are AJ's thing. Priddle Mondays.
Medallions.
Yeah, medallions. Buzz Smith, that's a new name too, says, if the little girl in India can solve the first 2 clues, how did she stick her toe in the water? And that's an awesome point. She didn't. Forrest keeps saying that to all the people whose warm waters halt have nothing to do with water. Right? So you don't have to physically go there and put your toe in it. If you found it from the book, apparently you can find it from the poem in a map. You could find it. But there's something in the book that tells you this is the correct where warm waters halt.
Except for, what is it? Maybe it's just for the clueless searcher sitting in front of him, or not sitting in front of him, Scott, Cynthia, K-Pro, to say, come on, guys, why can't you tip your toe in it? Like, he's breaking it down at a remedial level for us. And that was Cynthia 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's Scott and I just in the last year. That's him saying again and again, it has to be waters and it has to be warm. And you're right. I am so glad that you're not trying to back it in some way to say how your vlog 3 was actually right. You're actually saying, okay, it's not cold, it's wrong.
Right.
But so now we've narrowed it down to every warm water, which is now it's not 60 million places, it's only 2 million places.
Yeah, right. That's kind of true. 3D Bronze has got another good point. Cowlazars K-Pro. It's not where warm waters stop being warm. It's where warm waters halt. In other words, where warm waters stop, not where they halt being warm. That's an interesting point.
I see. It's not where they physically stop moving. It is But
it could be where it physically stops.
It could be, but it's not specifically.
Right. In other words, he's saying it's not a river, and then right here it's boiling hot because the hot spring dumps into it. If you move over a little bit, it's warm, and if you move over a little bit more, now it's cold. That area in the middle is not where warm waters halt. That's where warm waters is. He's saying where warm waters physically halt is what we're looking for. So maybe it's a bathing hole that's contained. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or somewhere that's warm enough that's contained. Like a swim. What did Jeremy say earlier? That the waterfall goes into a swimming hole or a basin or something like that.
Yes. Okay, so
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
In this book is where I went with Cynthia when we kind of went boots on the ground. We looked at a spot that she had been to where basically there was warm waters that came in. It stopped in the middle of the hillside, and there was little bathing. They'd actually set it up. There's little bathing places, and you could see me. I think we only put me like knee high. I actually got in, and then it continues to go down and it enters into a cold river. And so I think I think that's what you're saying, except for the waterfall part isn't there. It was really hot waters that went into a bathing hole that then continued down into the actual river. And then it went down a canyon. That's what she was saying.
Right. Yeah, that could be. So in other words, where does it halt? And to me, it might be where the river ends. So now people are putting it together, I think, and now we're getting to the next part of this logic puzzle, and that is Laura Dunlap. You'd get a medallion if we had any. If that is a medallion in the chat, if that is the logic for warm, how about why waters and not water? Can we discuss that too? So if we figured out the warm part, it is warm to the touch. Why is the waters plural? It's
That's like the
waters,
V and the A. That's like the D and the A. Is that directing waters versus water, or kind of like V and A, plural versus singular?
So, in my opinion, if he used, well, he used the plural form of waters. It's more than one hot spring.
No, I would say it's more than one. It's more than one water. So
water
hot
sources.
spring to water sources.
More than water sources. So a lot of
Yeah.
people say Madison Junction is where warm waters halt because those
That was
two
my
rivers.
first one.
But is that water warm when you touch it? I don't know the answer to that. Is it physically warm?
Yes,
when
there
you
is
touch it?
there is a location that it is. But here, so Forrest asked me one time, have you had more than one solve? And I don't think he remembered my first solve, because my first solve, my WWWH, was Madison Junction. And he said, "Oh, you and 100,000 other people."
Right.
And I thought, is that telling me like that's not
Forrest
it?
said that to you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I hate
And
to
I
say
said,
it. 'Cause-
"Oh, I was a newbie. That's how it worked. And now I'm on to something more ridiculous." Ha ha ha.
And I hate to say it because that is a lot of people's where warm waters halt. But Forrest said a few people have figured out the first two clues. Not all kinds of people have figured out the first clue. I think there's a quote where he says certainly more than several. Madison Junction is not where warm waters halt, in my opinion, because everybody in the world thinks it is. And so it's just my opinion. But I like the waters plural. So there's more than one water source that halt, physically stop somehow. Is it a pool? Is it a contained, not a cavern, but you know what I mean? It goes down. These multiple sources make the water warm, and it just stops right there. And then maybe it goes underground. It stops. You say, well, it would overflow. Maybe it just goes underground somewhere else. So we've got a pool of water where the warm water physically stops. To me, that makes the most sense. Now we just have to find it on the map. But I've never looked at it this way before. To tell you the truth, after we've gone through the kind of talking it out, me and you going back and forth and everybody in the chat, I've never thought of it that way before, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, and Steve says halt is stop, but it could be a temporary stop, kind of like what you were saying, right?
Yeah, what if it stops,
but in a different
pulls
way.
up, but then it there's like a underground, it keeps going.
Does it have to stop all year round? What if it's an area that only really keeps going during the melt?
Runoff, right? The runoff.
Yeah. Okay, Quanta says we're going to have to go to Colorado to find the correct WWWH. I have family in Colorado, so I'm ready. Okay. After my last solve, which was last search season in New Mexico, which was with a different search partner, it was his solve. I just went and looked at something for him. I then said, I've now searched in 3 states. I've never searched in Colorado. So I took about 2 months and I did probably what is in Minotaur Marino's database. And I grabbed every warm water and hot water spring in Colorado. Then I put it in the search locations of the Rockies. Then I took it to the elevations and I narrowed it down to, I want to say there was 15. And I did research on all 15 of those. Did they have a canyon near it? Did they have this, that, the other? It narrowed it down to 3. None of those I could make anything with. So I spent about, I'd say, a month or 2 doing that. You guys all thought I was taking a break. I was taking a break and looking at things. And actually, I was doing it with Follow Me Down to try to say, like, is there anything that Colorado could bring me? And it just didn't for me, I'm not saying that rules out Colorado, because obviously it doesn't. But for me, it needs to hit certain criteria. It needs to have water. It needs to be to the touch. It needs to be in the search location. I do believe all 9 points have to be in the search locations, which I did not believe on 2 solves ago. So that is important to me, and I'll tell you that on another day. But that is, I did get some feedback from Forrest on my Nez Perce solve, and he's like, "Where did you start?" I was like, "Oh, I started in Oregon." And
No water, right? Yeah.
No, it wasn't in the search state. So anyway, we'll go into that another day. We are hot in WWWH. So let's, okay. So what else do we have about WWWH? Because I will say, even though this has been interesting, just the WWWH discussion, there is about 20 other quotes in here by either Forrest or ones that Cynthia said, here is something really specific and let's apply it this way, that I don't think has gotten a lot of discussion. I don't know if it did way back in the day. It definitely didn't by the tubers. There was like AGK and Cowlazars. That was it. No, none of the other tubers even existed, I don't think, at that time.
And just
right?
so, yeah, I mean, if you want to go back,
And neither of you, Toby did not know. I am the one that introduced Toby and Cynthia. They did not know each other before I came into New Mexico.
Yeah.
I know, they lived right there and they had never met, which I thought was hilarious. So I was like, can we all get together?
And just
okay.
so people know, we don't make any money off this book. If you buy Cynthia's book, we don't get any money from that. We just realize the book is a resource that a lot of people may not have been aware of, because I don't have it. I have most of the books, and I don't have this one, so I'm going to have to order it. But once K-Pro was like, hey, look, this is Forrest said a couple things, or I should say Cynthia says Forrest said a couple things, and I believe Cynthia. She's been around a long time. She's got no reason to make stuff up.
Well, and she's very close with Forrest. If she would have made stuff up, Forrest would have cut her off years ago.
Right.
And actually, when Sean said it, because Sean, I think, is more of a skeptic than I am, because I trust a lot of searchers, obviously, and shouldn't. He was like, oh, if Dale and Cynthia say it, we should take it at face value. That's when I started digging back into this book. And oh my gosh, there were so many gems that, the whole lines cross. Let me give you another quote. The treasure is out there waiting for the person who can make all the lines cross in the right spot. And then he talks about the nouns. He talks about being an architect. That's another one that I think is important. I didn't write the poem. It was written by an architect. Each word was deliberate. What? Each word is deliberate.
ES says there was more than AGK and Cowlazars back then, and that's true. There were other videos out there. You had to search for them, but they were there. Czar says, K-Pro, what quote most brings Cynthia to her search location now? Do we know? Because she's up north somewhere. She abandoned New Mexico, and she's up there somewhere. But I don't know if there's one thing you can point to in the book that says this is why. Is that book all about her New Mexico trips, or is there? Because it came out before she switched states, right?
This is when you know she's ready to leave New Mexico, when she puts it all in the book. And I will say she has a lot more than this. And the really cool part, if you don't have her book, is she has a ton of pictures of her search locations. And if you know about Molly, and actually it was Molly had a little sidekick, but she actually went out with different searchers, and she has pictures of them, and now she does it up on her blog, and she does it up on her YouTube. She was recently with Britt Chaser's family, and they did one. I will answer that, but I won't answer that. Searchers that tell me things, I don't know what she's comfortable with passing on and not passing on. I don't know if she's told me the answer to that. I do know that she is searching up north, and I know some particulars, but I would say more than that.
So somebody has a question. Redneck Express says, how do you know what F told Cynthia is true or false? He said he doesn't help individual searchers, and I believe him.
Right.
To me, I don't think he's helping any individual searchers. To Forrest, it's obvious. When the poem says begin at where warm waters halt, and you tell him about a solve that doesn't involve water, I think he's going to tell you, where's the warm water? I don't think that's helping anybody get closer to the treasure chest. I think it's kind of him hitting himself in the head, saying, why don't you read my poem and actually look at what the words mean? Warm waters means warm water. So I don't think that's helping a searcher get any closer. Maybe it's telling a searcher your solve's wrong. I mean, when he said that about your Nez Perce, is it? When he kind of said, where's your waters? Well, then you were like, oh, then I guess this is wrong.
Well, And here's
Yeah.
another one that I'll say. I don't know for sure, but I don't think he necessarily helps. But here's another one. There was a searcher up on Facebook that talked today about Forrest has never said Santa Fe is Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it's 8.25 miles north of Santa Fe, New Mexico. There's a Santa Fe road down in Temple, Texas. What if it's Santa Fe? And that's the one thing we never considered. So I wrote some of my search piece and was like, I haven't heard this before. What if this is the one thing? And they're like, no, there was a group of us when Randy Ballou passed, or we were searching for Randy Ballou, and he said he wasn't in search locations. It has to be 8.25 miles north of the northern point of Santa Fe, and he wasn't in the search he wasn't in the search location of what I said. So that put that baby to bed. Now, did he give them super secret hints? No, I think he just talks sometimes and doesn't even realize he has maybe given somebody the epiphany that he thinks is already obvious.
Yeah. I think to him, he's just like, why were you even looking somewhere else? It says warm waters. It's, I'm surprised when I did my vlog, because I used to email him and he'd email me back and say something like, you're quick on your feet, or I like the way you think, or something. I'm surprised he didn't say something like, how can it not, where's your warm waters? So I just put a couple people were like, what book is this? I just put the link to Cynthia's website. I also put Cynthia's email address. If you guys have any questions, email her. A couple people said, will she sign the book if I buy it? You got to talk to Cynthia about that.
Yes, she will.
And when she gets back from Boots on the Ground, I'm sure she'll respond and all that stuff.
Mine's, let's see if I can do this without giving away too much.
That's Forrest's signature. Forrest Fenn. There's no dot in the middle. What does that mean?
I won't say. I won't.
So you don't want to put whatever he wrote on there, huh? Did he say, did you dip your toe in it? Somebody wants to know where Cynthia's searching now. I don't know if she's publicly disclosed that or not.
She right now is in the northern states. I believe she goes between Cody. I think she's in West Yellowstone. Between recon, researching, and actual location, she is somewhere up north, the two states, I will just say. And I think she just said on Sean's show, she's never searched in Colorado. So she's like me. She's just skipped Colorado. So I don't know.
Mark Anthony Hammock says, Capro, that smile of yours is like a cat that just ate a huge mouse. Or maybe that's the cat that ate the canary. That's funny.
I don't know it. Well, I will tell you, I really honestly try to hold to this. If someone tells me something, I don't try to reveal it or put it out there, especially if it's their own personal solve. Now, if they tell me to, it's okay.
Right.
I had a searcher ask me today, I am so interested in such and such solve. I know you know it. Can you tell me it? And I said, no, but can I go and ask that person? And I asked that person, and that person said, oh, I know who you're talking about. And I would really potentially like to even partner up with that person. And there might be a match. And I think I get a small fee. I don't know what that is, but
the frog, that's all you want, right?
Exactly. Well, actually, they mentioned the frog, which I thought was funny. So I don't want to reveal it. So I just try to do it with a smile. And that's my smile, to think, what can I say right now to be clever? And it's never clever. You guys see right through me, and that's how it works.
So we've got somebody called Chroma Key in the chat, and they have a green screen for their picture. So email me at cowlazars@gmail.com and let me know this is not a green screen. That's why it looks like it does. But I have a green screen, but it's not wide enough. So if you can hook me up with something or show me how to do it right, email me for sure.
And you know that Toby Eunice is like Mr. Technologically savvy of the world.
And now somebody asked, how did the meetup go? Well, guess what, everybody? The meetup is this Saturday. Me and Capro are going to be at Olive Garden on Flamingo on the east side of Las Vegas this Saturday, 5 p.m. So we invite everybody that's going to be here in Vegas to show up. And let's talk about where warm waters halt. We hope to have Chase-opoly, the prototype, there as well to show everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, are there more quotes in the book, or should we... We're already an hour in, so what do you want to do?
You know what? We might need to do a part 2, because I will say there are 1, 2, 3. There's at least 10 to 15 more quotes that I thought were important. Of either Forrest has said to everyone, like, what is the blaze? Anything that stands out? She has some opinions on that. See, I've spent time with Cynthia. I stay at her place when I come into town.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've already had hours and hours of discussion. She has a very unique she's very honest in this book, and she's told me her book. I mean, but I feel like I've already known this stuff, but a lot of people don't. She does have, in case anybody is interested in the Diggin' Gypsy page 99 discussion, she references not only Diggin' Gypsy, she references Mindy's blog and where you could find some of the controversy at the time with the page 99.
What'd you say about the Blaze? You said she has some thoughts on the Blaze? Or
Yeah, there's quotes on the Blaze.
Oh.
We can go down any route.
Yeah, I can do another hour. It's up to you. Can you do another hour? You're the one that's later as far as time wise.
Yeah, and I know.
If not, that's fine. We'll do it next week.
99. Do you guys remember this? And where Forrest actually put some X's on this. This was
page 99.
A couple of years ago with Diggin' Gypsy, and so that's in there. She has a real affinity to Scrapbook 107. And she thinks that that's a whole nother one. Let me see if I can find the $5 bill that's folded in a certain way.
So I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. Thomas says, before this ends, please explain why you're so adamant that dipping your toes in it actually means putting toes in water. Well, my first thought is, what else would it mean other than the literal, did you put your toe in it? When he said that to you, K-Pro, did you take it in any other way other than did you physically put your toe in it? He wants to know why we think he physically means, did you put your toe in it? What else could he have meant?
Well, he said it to me in like 3 different ways. He was like, did you touch it? And I'm like, touch what? And he's like, did you tip your toe in it? And I said, tip your toe in WWWH? He's like, yes. And I said, so that means it needs to be water. And he's like, yes.
Duh. Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't know if he said yeah, like, because he's always elusive with his words. He was like, what else would it mean? And I'm like, well, it doesn't say that exactly. And yes, the PhD crutch comment comes in. He's like, many a times he's like, you need a crutch, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know he said that. But I was thinking, I'm getting information. If I get a little zing here, I'll give him a zing back. I'm like, well, if you've ruled out a search state, and we kind of have the whole banter about.
Well, I think Forrest never envisioned all the rabbit holes that we as searchers would go down. That, you know what I mean? When he wrote the poem, oh, that's awesome. When he wrote the poem and put, begin it where warm waters halt, to him, there's no other explanation other than physically warm waters. Oh, there's the Jackie Kennedy. Oh, they're both drinking out of it. Somebody asked, where does Cynthia live? She's in the Albuquerque area. Is that correct? Yeah, and the Albuquerque. So she's not far from Santa Fe, where Forrest is, which is probably why she's over there 18 times a week. No, or whatever it is.
Redneck Express says he was playing me like a fiddle. Sure, and absolutely.
That Forrest is okay.
He might have been saying that, and it's actually nothing to do with water or something. Sure.
Yeah,
that's absolutely the case. That could be the case.
We have to leave that open as a possibility. That's true, because he actually used the word tip with a T, right? Did you tip your toe in it?
See, and someone asked me that, and I have to tell you.
Dip with a D.
I don't have a recording of it, and I don't have the exact.
You don't have a recording of it.
I don't have a recording of it. But right. I will say that Scott Conway does, and I think it was dip. I don't remember. He put that.
He emailed Scott, right, and said, "Did you dip your?"
I want to say it was dip or I don't remember.
And does it matter? I don't know. But it's possible Forrest could just be having some fun with everybody he's talked to. That's true.
Here's one that I think is really funny. Okay, last one, and then I'll stop.
All right.
So in 2017, there's a scrapbook that says, "I suddenly felt like a crippled ant in an elephant parade."
And that's from scrapbook, right?
That is from a scrapbook in March of 2017. We are all talking about, oh, I'm the elephant and the ants and the elephants. He said this 2.5 years ago. Like, I think it's something new. He's regurgitated, and we're all taking it. It's me, or it's this person. 2.5 years ago, they might not have been in the chase. The people that some people think it's them, they weren't even on the radar 2.5 years ago. He used the same ants and elephants. Now she thinks it's actually Elephant Rock CG, what
Elephant Rock CG? What does that mean?
I don't know what CG is.
No.
She goes through the different scrapbooks that she thinks are important and what they mean.
Well, the book is her opinions. I mean, it's how she interprets the clues. It's where she searched in New Mexico. The book is her opinions, but she says Forrest Fenn told me this, and that's what I think the important part is. That's what I want to know, are the things that Forrest has said over the years.
There's a scrapbook 174 that talks about Black Pony Mountain and Quanah Chief, and Quanah Chief's mother was Cynthia Ann, and her name is Cynthia Ann, and so she's like.
Oh, I never knew her middle
Like,
name.
I didn't either until I read this book. And there's a ton like this that she's like we all do. He's talking to me, but like, there's some ones in here that it's like, oh, where were you searching at that time? Because it is, oh boy. So, but it talks about the word that is key. I just remember
That's
when
in there too.
yes, there's
Oh, that's cool.
a few years ago, Forrest said, many are giving serious thought to the clues in my poem, but only a few are in tight focus with the word that is key. Do you remember when one tuber got this? Is like, this is the biggest thing ever. Since Cynthia's book from 3 years ago or 4 years ago.
Right,
I mean,
right. And I don't know where he put that. I would think it was Mysterious Writings when he put that out. But yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. That scrapbook.
Oh, the one with the why did he fold the corners? In other words, what's Forrest doing to everybody? He puts out these scrapbooks. They have these weird Photoshop pictures. Remember the hat that was above his head? It's floating. Something's going on. I don't know if he's just having fun with everybody or it's important. What?
Elephant Rock is in the solve I shared last week. Do you see? This is
why. But Sassy, your Warm Waters Halt was Agua Fria, and there's no water there. I thought that was the name of a city. So in my opinion, I'm not going to tell anybody their solve's wrong, but in my opinion, it's wrong because you can't dip your toe in it. You can't.
You're not going to tell anybody their solve's wrong.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say in my opinion.
You said the word wrong 100 times tonight. And you didn't say in your opinion when you said it to me. Oh boy. But all of it's in our opinion. If it's not in our opinion,
yeah.
Say it. And who are we? We are just. This is the cool part. And I have to tell you, I have another couple searcher books back here, but this is what, okay. So let me put a bookmark at the end of this before we get into a couple other
wheel.
things.
Yeah.
If you are looking at some guy, PhD or not, because it's overrated, trust me, and you want to go buy his book because he happened to catch the newsreel and you are maybe watching people that are buying his book and talking about it, here's a book to consider. Not because I'm friends with Cynthia, because there's a ton in here and it's directly from Forrest, and she is in the community and well respected and still friends with Forrest. So just something to consider. I didn't realize all the gems in there. I think we need to do a second show because there's another set of quotes that and the whole page 99 and a few others that I think, and then the river bathing is best. She doesn't even get into. I'd like her opinion on that. Anyway.
Well, we'll see if she wants to come on the show at some point. Maybe she could relate the stories like, yeah, Forrest said this, Forrest said that. I don't know. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. But, so... And that's where Warm Waters Halt right there. So what have we gone over today? After hearing about what Forrest has said to 3 different searchers on 3 different occasions.
At least.
I'm sure there's more. People have never come forward to say, hey, he said that to me too. Can you touch it? Is it warm? That's kind of the gist of it, right? When was it Manby Springs? Am I pronouncing that right? When the news crew said she took us here and he was like, that's not warm. I know, I've been there. That's not warm. In other words, it's water. And it's got to be warm. And I think that blows a lot of people's theories out of the water. Haha, get it? Right there. Because there's been a whole bunch of conjecture that the first clue doesn't have to do with water. I did it in vlog number 2. I was 100% wrong. I think that's important by itself.
100%. I will say 99.99%. Because nothing's 100% until we know or it comes from Forrest's mouth saying WWWH is water, actual H2O water or something like that. So I won't say 100% because some people will say, oh, how could you know? And Forrest, they just said it's 100%. Does that mean don't bug Forrest? We're just giving our opinion. I talked to Forrest about this. This is just a story.
The videos we make are our opinions, everybody. We hope you guys enjoy them. We hope you'll thumbs up the video if you do enjoy them. But we're going to keep making them whether you thumbs it down or not. So, but I will say this. The water can touch the water. Is it warm? But the little girl from India can figure out the first 2 clues, and she's not touching if it's warm. So I think he's telling that to people that have an incorrect Where Warm Waters Halt. So you can figure out the correct Where Warm Waters Halt just with a map and just with the poem. And I think the Thrill of the Chase has got the hints that help, a special hint that helps narrow it down, and that's what I'd like to get into in later shows.
Okay, and so I hate to say this because I don't want to call anybody out. So Cynthia, when she was searching where she was searching, that means it was wrong. That means my Nesper solve is wrong, and Scott Conway, it means yours is wrong, in my opinion.
But Scott's trying to say I did dip my toe in it and it was warm. I mean, didn't he send Forrest a picture saying, or I don't know if that water was warm or not, but I think Scott was like, yeah, Forrest, I did dip my toe in it.
I will just say I will not reveal any of my past searcher partners' locations, but let's just say I'd been in that general area. I don't think I couldn't find.
Is this Elvado? Is that the general area? Well, no, Scott Conway. I'm talking about Scott Conway, not anybody else. Yeah. Nice poker face there, Gabriel. That's funny. The Elvado topo map went out with the last eBay auction. So,
alrighty.
Say that again, Mike, just to make it clear. Say what again? It's got to be water. It's got to be warm. We're looking for where it halts. That's a whole other description, I guess. We're looking for waters, plural. So to me, that means it's not one hot spring that dumps into the Madison. Chris Bischoff, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. I'm going to have to get a bigger green screen because mine is about this big. I need one this big. So it doesn't do this. Water, warm, waters, plural. So to me, that means more than one water source, which to me, hot spring makes the most sense. What else makes water warm out in the Rocky Mountains but a hot spring? So where does more than one hot spring, multiple, where do they halt? Is there one spot where they halt?
I wasn't with you on the cold. I'm not with you with the more than one. I think waters can be hot and a cold because that's where it halts. Waters, it makes more than one, and where right in back of you.
So like Madison Junction.
Yeah, well, right in back of you. Oh, Caliente to Madison.
Okay, but then it becomes, how do you narrow it down? Why is it that one and not the other 1,000? And that's where I think we have to use the thrill of the chase. But if the little girl from India did it with just the poem and a map,
yeah, and I like Zapster. What Zapster's saying, I wouldn't get too literal around I wouldn't get too literal or wrapped around the axle on water temperature. Forrest would say, look at the big picture. Touch it. Is it warm?
Comfortable,
like,
right?
Get into a tub. You know what's cold and you know what's warm. Does it matter if it's 67 degrees or 82 degrees? You know what feels warm. And I would say if it's kind of about there, that's fine.
So this is interesting. Who was it that told me to look up halt? Oh, Redneck Express, those Cowlazars. Look up the definition of halt. So check it out. Halt can be a verb or it can be a noun. The question is, in that line, begin it where warm waters halt. Is that a verb or a noun? The verb halt means verb, bring or come to an abrupt stop. Used as a military command to bring marching soldiers to a stop. Bring or come to an abrupt stop, halt. But if it's a noun, it means a suspension of movement or activity, typically a temporary one.
Okay, so this is a great point.
A halt in production.
Look right behind you where Ojo Caliente hits the Madison. The water does not halt, but the hotness of the water.
That's true. So the warm halts. The water flows, but there's only one area where it's halt. Then it gets cold if you keep going.
The warm that halts.
Okay, and that's correct. What I mean is I agree with that. Not that it's definitely correct, but I agree with that. So when Forrest says there's 1,000 places where warm waters halt, that might be what he's referring to. There's 1,000 hot springs that dump into a cold river. How do we find out the right one?
Oh, that'll be the next show.
Yeah, it's going to have to be because we're not letting go of this line of reasoning. It's definitely going to be the next show. K-Pro is going to be here in Vegas this weekend. We're having a searcher meetup on Saturday, and we're going to go live. So we're going to be here from the command center talking about where warm waters halt. I don't know how we can talk about anything else at this point. So make sure you guys subscribe to know when we go live. It's not going to be Thursday. I may upload a video Thursday, but K-Pro is going to be not available to do a live show. So I don't know if it'll be a live show Thursday, but I'll upload something, especially with AGK out. We got to upload something.
We want to talk about the other big news with Margie?
Oh, yeah, Margie Goldsmith. You guys remember our last video, we brought up the Margie Goldsmith article, and we noticed a lot of errors. There were a lot of spelling errors. Well, K-Pro, being the person that she is, she emailed Margie. So tell them what Margie emailed you back. And she emailed Dale, I think, actually.
Well,
and
she
you,
emailed me and then forwarded it to, so because I think she wanted to make sure it got out to everybody. So basically what I said is, Margie, we introduced myself and what our show is, and everybody loves it. If there's any teeny tiny inaccuracy, we love to jump into it to say if there was a hint or not. Forrest's name's misspelled, the 12th versus 16th century on the chest. I gave 4 or 5 different examples. I said, I very respectfully, was this intentional, not intentional? What do you think? And she was so kind. Within 12 hours, she emailed me back. And she wanted to make, I'm assuming she wanted to make sure it got out. So Dale actually put it up on Dale's blog. It is absolutely not intentional. It was her issue. It was on the magazine. So any of the inaccuracies that you see in that article is 100% not Forrest trying to give us hints and working through subliminally that we need to find them. It was 100% on the magazine. So thank you. And Margie was very graceful and humble when she said it. We want to say thank you so much for responding. And I know I would have spent hours trying to figure out which ones. There were several and this and that, like 1998 versus 88. That was the big one that everybody was like, oh, no, it was just a typo, guys. So put that baby to bed.
Jay Minnesota says, thank you for sharing your email talk with the article mistakes, because I think people were wondering.
Yeah.
Jan Schultz 174 says 9 years in, and we're still discussing the first clue. Nice. But to me, that's the genius of Forrest Fenn in his poem. He wrote a poem that's so ambiguous that we could go in so many different directions. He said it might not be solved for 100 years. It's not a cipher where it's like, oh, I know it, I figured it out. It's one of those ones where people could be looking for 1,000 years for this thing.
There's another piece to it, like when he says, stop talking about the blaze, get back to WWW, stop doing, and he keeps stopping us from getting to, I haven't heard him say that about Canyon, but I have heard him say it about the blaze, Homer Brown. It's in Cynthia's book. If it's in Cynthia's book, it makes it so. He keeps telling us, stop talking about all the later crap. You need to learn your AB. You need to crawl before you can walk.
Right.
So he's telling us to crawl. And even though we think we're crawling, we're still fumbling around. We've got to learn to crawl. So I think I want to listen to Forrest and focus on WWWH, but also some other good gems in here. I want to get the other, especially 99 and and Mindy's even referenced in this book, and lots of different quotes, and Scrapbook 107, all the other, there's a ton and then there's just some cool pictures, like if you don't know through the years. So
the Fenn Breeze, I think Cynthia's probably been to all of them, right? The Function and the Junction the last 2 years or whatever.
Yeah, definitely the last couple of years, but this was already printed by then. But anyway, so there's a ton of stuff in here, but I would say I'll hit another maybe 10 quotes of highlights that we want to talk to. We want to talk about river bathing is best. We want to talk a little bit more about WWWH. There you have it. Like what we have months of shows. So if you're considering a book, consider this one more than the other ones that really just say, I went there and the treasure chest was indented or it wasn't there, and that means I found it and I have the correct solve. She never says she has the correct solve. She just gives her philosophy and interpretations. She's an active searcher. This is where you should put your time more than any other stuff, even if they could get on headline news or get other people to buy it and do reviews for them. That's just silly.
So I don't know if you want to comment on this, Capro, but Doug Hayduck says, what do you think about that Man Alone dude? Man Alone that was on AGK when you called in?
Yeah, so I did call in, and I am the first to say I do not have all the answers. I do not believe that Man Alone is correct, because I do not believe it would be, the solve is going to be based on a specific religion. And I articulated that. I was a little ornery in the chat, which I tend to do, but when I talked one-on-one with him, he seems like a dedicated searcher. I do not watch all of his vlogs. I've watched some of them. I have seen a couple of his blog postings. It seems to me that he is a dedicated searcher, but I don't agree with his philosophies. Just like somebody sent me a very, very advanced code that I had to do a statistical regression model to be able to actually see it. I see what they're saying. I don't agree with it. I see that if I pull certain scripture from the Bible, that Man Alone there might be some coincidences. I don't believe that that's the case. I believe, and another reason is, I believe that Forrest was more spiritual than he was specifically religious to a certain version of the Bible or a certain scripture. I don't think that's the book he talks about. And he doesn't talk about it enough. And I don't think he talks about it at all in The Thrill of the Chase. I keep grabbing Cynthia's book. So I think he seems like a good guy. And I don't think he's ever been particularly negative or inappropriate. I don't know that for a fact, but he seems like a good guy. So if that works with you and that affiliates with you, great. I just don't think it's the right path to go down. And I have enough rabbit holes. I'm not going down those. But again, more power to you if that is what you believe. What do you think, Michael?
I give him credit for going on AGK and just saying, hey, this is what I think, guys. This is what researching the poem has led me. I think it's totally wrong. I don't really understand why he would get into, Freemasonry and some of the other things I think he touched upon, hid secret societies and stuff. I don't get it. I don't think Forrest Fenn has got any of that in his mind when he wrote the poem. But I give him credit for going up, putting himself out there because, we're all kind of talking about it. And, yeah, I don't understand it. I mean, I think we should just concentrate on where warm waters halt. But yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. So
Yeah. Let's see. The solve does have to do with the moral dilemma that F faced in contemplating taking his own life. That's an interesting one. But here's the question I have for you, Quana. Does that mean that he then contemplated it based on a specific chapter and verse of scripture and a certain version of the Bible? Or does that mean it was more spiritual and it was more general, that he contemplated life as a human being on this earth? I believe the latter more than the former, if it is related to the solve, and I think it definitely could be, because look what this whole thing's about, what happened with his father. But I do think that I would be challenged unless I saw something really, really specific. And you know who you are in the room. There's one person that I think is really onto something. I haven't tied it all together, but he has. And I'm like, ooh, there's too many coincidences there. Maybe if there's something coincidences,
right.
Maybe if there's something that in the scripture that I could be shown that really could tie it, but it would have to be very short and concise. I know there are some searchers that really believe in the Bible and they send me lots of scripture and things.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what Forrest is trying to do here. I think there for a variety of reasons. So anyway.
All right. When is the marathon, K-Pro? Did we come up with a date with the Forrest Fenn Marathon? For those of you who maybe are new or don't know, me and K-Pro once every month or two, we do a Forrest Fenn Marathon. And what that means is we go live on a Saturday for 12, or Sunday, usually Saturday, for 12 hours straight. And we have different panel guests come on, and we talk about Forrest Fenn. We talk about whatever the chat room wants to talk about. We let the chat ask questions to the guests, and we are on for 12 hours. What's the date when we're going to do that next?
Well, and I will say it sounds crazy, but the time actually really flies.
It
is our most watched show of any show that we have. And so it is on the 28th. If you want to be on.
In 3 weeks. Okay. The 28th. Saturday, the 28th. Okay.
And so if you, like William Sparks just said, how would you like to do a show knowing the solve? Okay, let's do a show. Come on the show. So you could be a newbie that wants to do a show with other people. You might have a specific topic that you want to talk about. You might want to talk about the book. You might want to talk about a failed boots on the ground. You might want to talk about safety. We have somebody that wants to talk, two different people that want to talk about searcher safety. Steve Barnes wanted to talk about the Rubik's Cube and how you have to think of it the same way. We will be talking about Chase-opoly. Just basically anything. If you have an idea, if you want to hear from someone else, Sassy and I were going to interrogate Joel, but unfortunately, Joel dropped it. He got scared and dropped out. He was so afraid of our interrogation.
So if anybody wants to be on the marathon, we've had a couple people say, I've never been on any show or forum, but I want to come on and tell people about my first boots on the ground and about my solve. I want to know what people think of it. So yeah, just email me, cowlazars@gmail.com, or email kpro3@aol.com. So you had something behind you in the beginning of the show, and that's called Chase-opoly, the Thrill of the Chase board game. And I know we've talked about it. We're taking pre-orders for it. We got the okay from Forrest to create a board game. It's created by searchers for searchers. We tailored this game that basically has everything to do with the poem and the clues for this board game, Chase-opoly. Stay home and play Canasta, or stay home and play Chase-opoly, the Thrill of the Chase board game, while you decipher the clues and prepare to take the adventure of a lifetime. So we're taking pre-orders now. We hope to have those out to everybody in November, December time frame. And we had a lot of fun. And also, we have announced there is going to be a separate treasure hunt from me and K-Pro in the box when you get it. So it's a grand adventure. On Facebook, we've got a group called Forrest Fenn's Grand Adventure, and you can see some of the details there. As things come up, we're going to post details there as far as the board game. So thanks to everybody who's ordered. And yeah, we'll probably go live this weekend and show the prototype, because we should have it by this weekend. So Good
Oh, and
stuff. Yeah.
Richard is also saying he's going to reveal his solve on the 28th marathon. Great. Email us. We are, and
Oh,
Sarah,
cool. Thanks, Richard. Come on the show.
we have done a women's panel several times where we have women that search alone. We have women that search with their partners. We have women that search with other women. And there is a little bit of a unique perspective. I have searched alone. I have searched with a family member, and I have searched with a boyfriend. And so I can tell you, I have searched with all three. And so there's very different perspectives. So,
Czar says, what time's the meetup at the little White Chapel on Saturday? Nice,
Whitechapel meeting, the Olive Garden at 5 o'clock, my friend.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, Olive Garden. Be there if you're in Vegas. We're going to be talking Forrest Fenn. And then we're going to play poker at Bally's, and everybody can come with us over there, too, if you want to have some fun.
Yep. It's usually a lot smaller because it's Vegas. So there's we're not in the search locations. There's between 6 and 10 usually. And so you probably won't be able to, the nice part about the bigger meetups is you can break people away and talk. We usually are just one big group that chit chats. But we talk about all things Forrest Fenn. It's great. I did mention to Cowlazar who my boyfriend searcher was. I'm sorry.
Oh, T Brown? Yeah. I've heard a couple things from K-Pro. Uh-huh. Drew Line Productions, as long as everyone's having a good time. Okay, we're going to go so we're at an hour and a half. Do you want to keep going or do you want to end it? What do you think?
No, we need to end it because I have things happening. I got to prep a lot of stuff before I happen to be traveling this week, if you didn't know it.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you like the Warm Waters Halt and Cynthia's book, if you like the discussion, thumbs up the video. Make sure you subscribe. We are going to go live sometime this weekend, me and K-Pro. And then I will upload something Thursday. I might go live by myself. I might just upload a video. I don't know yet. But I'll definitely do something. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we will see you this weekend at some point. Right? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you all. Bye, Search Friends.
All right. Bye, everybody.